Everyone, my name is Usama Musaddiq. With me are Danish Aman and Yamin Mohsin. We are students of Information Security in SEEK's NUST. The topic we are going to discuss today is command injection vulnerability found by a bug bounty hunter on GitHub, and he found it in August 2020. The name of the person who found the vulnerability is Jordan Rankin. He's not your old Western type of bounty hunter who wears a cowboy hat like I have shown you in this picture. Rather, he's a sophisticated one who participated in HackerOne bug bounty hunter program by GitHub, and he was rewarded with $4,000 and a pro membership of Git. Let's talk about bugs. A bug is not a fly. It is something that is bugging you or a system. It could be a functionality bug, something that could enhance the functionality of a system or a code if found and dealt with, something that is making your program sluggish. There are many types of bugs, and out of those types, there is a type called security bug, a security loophole through where the security of the system could be compromised. It is something, if found by some person with malicious intent, could lead to serious damages to the system. Now that we have established what a bug is, let's get to the topic at hand. The bug found in GitHub pages by Jordan Rankin. Everybody knows what GitHub is, right? Well, GitHub is a platform that connects all the software, firmware, even hardware developers together all around the world. Everything that is open source or even not open source, it is housed in GitHub. Your software updates, security patches. GitHub is like a bank for developers and computer IT scientists and engineers. What does it mean to have a bug or a loophole present in a bank? That means the money isn't secure and your assets are at risk. For this purpose only, these giants like GitHub or Docker Hub platforms, they have programs named as Big Bug Bounty Hunter programs. They invite or challenge the whole world to find loopholes in their system so they could improve their security and functionality for the betterment of their organization, and they're willing to spend money on it. Well, Jordan Rankin found a vulnerability in GitHub, specifically in GitHub pages. Now, what is GitHub pages? It is a basically static site generator, a website hosting service that is intended for the developers to create public or private repositories for their project. Even if you haven't used GitHub pages to host a website before, you have utilized it without even knowing it. Whenever you are cloning a project from GitHub using the famous command of git clone, you are actually accessing that GitHub page. So the vulnerability that he found was not meant for the user. It was the vulnerability for the creator of that repo who was on the other side of that transaction. So this is a vulnerability related to web security. Let's talk about websites. So websites, the front end is usually made up of HTML, CSS for styling and layouts. So people write codes in it, right? But to facilitate the developers and save their time spent on writing lengthy codes for flavors and themes, GitHub uses a theme generator, Jekyll Themes, which helps in layouts and styling. The vulnerability that was found was the OS command injection vulnerability. OS command injection, also known as shell injection vulnerability, is something that is a serious threat. Let me give you an example. An OS command could be anything from creating a simple file or a directory to destroying that or modifying it, or even opening ports or making root or less privileged user on your system. I have written a code touch a.txt. So in Linux distribution, that commands in your bash, it creates a a.txt file that is empty, and you can use the command rm-rf to delete that specific file. Now, if you turn it into .txt to .sh and make it executable, now that is an exe file, and the syntax and the code of that specific file for just deleting the root of the system is these simple two lines. You can do that yourself, but you don't want anybody else who is not authorized to use your system to make directories or delete files on your system. So imagine a hacker deleting the root of your system, then you are in big trouble. Rankin found something similar, a possibility for an attack agent or a hacker to manipulate a user into running an OS command which looks like this, which could compromise the system. Now the command and the code behind it is up to the hacker's imagination, and the man who is under attack has no way of. In general, command injection vulnerability would look like this, a fishy URL, and the hacker is inside your system. Now the question is, how can command injection vulnerability get from Jekyll theme generator to your GitHub repo? Well, here is your answer. As you can see, there is a button, change theme. You click it, you go to this URL. Now there are three parts of this URL: source, select source, and source directory. The third part, source directory, basically it can be manipulated. Rankin mentioned it in his GitHub blog, how it can be manipulated in detail. You can find it there. There's a whole science behind it. The attacker can manipulate the workflow of GitHub page build process and the tar checkpoints into running OS commands of his own desire. The malicious URL would look like this. This malicious URL is provided to the admin through some social engineering process. The admin clicks the link, follows the normal process of selecting the theme. GitHub pipelines run the tar command, and all the workflow is done. And when it goes to the checkpoint in tar, bam, the hacker has full access to the private repository. Because why? Because the checkpoint in tar does not validate the source. GitHub mitigated it by simply removing the theme change command from its page. The summary of the process is shown in this slide. We can avoid command injection attack in general. User input must be verified and validated, and many other steps can be followed. These were the references. Thank you.